Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. And we're having a little bit of a celebration today because one of our dear ones has agreed to move into the ashram and become a full-time devotee of this movement, Jair. So we'd like to give Jair a hand. All of you out in cyberspace, please, and all of you here, give him your causeless mercy. Rain your mercy on his head, because it's a very difficult thing to do, to come out of the material world. But once you get here, it's the sweet taste of victory. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Okay, Sanatana Goswami, he was, tasted this. He went to Lord Chaitanya and he said, people think that I'm a big guy and I'm the chief minister under the Nawab Hussain Shah, and I know Persian and I know Sanskrit and I know this and I know that. They call me a learned man. And I'm thinking, who am I? Say you're a Manjari, which he actually is in the spiritual world, but he didn't say that. There's a class of so-called devotees who think that the spiritual master tells you what your name is in the spiritual world, otherwise he's not a spiritual master, otherwise you're not in the spiritual world. But Lord Chaitanya said, you're an eternal servant of Krishna. That's it. That's who we are. We'll find out the details later. You got to get to that stage first. Okay, Sanatana Goswami. He glorified the Srimad-Bhagavatam in a very wonderful way. Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastra Dipiyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Sri Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwan Dodita Ditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsanghin, Madguru Man Mahadana, Man Nistadaka Mad Bhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin, ati nicho chatakara, hanamun shagadachin mam, premna rit kanta yospura. O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we've reached the 26th verse of the 3rd chapter of the 11th canto, Antariksha, the third of the 9 Yogendras, is explaining to Maharaj Nimi how to get out of the illusion of material existence.
I think we switched to Prabhupada.
Oh, we're at Prabhupada already?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Absolutely positive?
Yeah, I remember it.
Are you sure?
Text 18.
Okay. Prabhupada, the fourth son, the fourth of the Navayogendras, of the 9 Yogendras, is speaking to us now. I'm not sure about this. I think I'm getting misled, but I'm going to go ahead. 26. One should practice meditation by constantly seeing oneself to be an eternal, cognizant spirit soul, and seeing the Lord to be the absolute controller of everything. To increase one's meditation, one should live in a secluded place and give up false attachment to one's home and household paraphernalia. Giving up the decorations of the temporary material body, one should dress himself with scraps of cloth found in rejected places, or with the bark of trees. We've read this.
This is 25. That's 25.
Oh, I'm reading 25. Oh, you know why? Because I've got my setting on the computer a little bit bigger so I can read better, and it half of the where it shows the translation in the verse, it's all cut off half. Okay. 26. Sorry for all the starts and stops, folks. So what can we do? Hare Krishna. One should have firm faith that he will achieve all success in life by following those scriptures that describe the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Welcome home, Nair. Jaya. At the same time, one should avoid blaspheming other scriptures. One should rigidly control his mind, speech, and bodily activities. Always speak the truth and bring the mind and senses under full control. Purport. The definition of Shraddha, or faith, is given as follows in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22:62. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahi Surida Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Kaili Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. By rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. This confident, firm faith, favorable to the discharge of devotional service, is called Shraddha. Thus, a devotee should be confident that by carrying out the injunctions of the Bhagavata Shastra, or Vedic literature, that directly, or rather than indirectly, describes devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I have to read that again. I think injunctions are left out. Thus, a devotee should be confident that by carrying out the injunctions of Bhagavata Shastra or Vedic literature that directly, rather than indirectly, describes devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one will easily achieve all knowledge and the perfection of life. That's why Vyasadeva was not completely satisfied after he finished editing the Vedas, Puranas, writing Vedanta Sutra, and Mahabharata. He wasn't completely satisfied because he was indirectly explaining. And the Bhagavatam directly explains devotional service. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Mano Vak Kaya Dandam, or strict control of the mind, speech, and bodily activities, means Manasa Vachika Kayika Vikrama Rahityam. That is, one should rigidly abandon all sinful activities with his mind, speech, and body. As Srila Prabhupada has repeatedly pointed out, sense control does not mean stopping sensory activities, thus becoming like a dead body, but rather engaging one's mental, vocal, and bodily activities in the service of Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated, Iha yasya harir dasye karmana manasa gira nikilasvastasu jivan mukta suuchite. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person, even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2, 187. Thus one can achieve vikarma rahita, or freedom from unauthorized sinful activities, by engaging one's senses, mind, intelligence, and speech 24 hours daily in the service of Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that only those pious living entities who are vikarma rahita, completely free from sinful life, can achieve freedom from the illusory duality of material nature. Samatvam dandvam samgyayo. The Lord says, Yesham twantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajante mam dridavrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and who are freed from the duality of delusion, engage themselves in my service with determination. Bhagavad Gita 7.28. In his purport to this verse, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada stated, quote, those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. For those who are sinful, atheistic, foolish, and deceitful, it is very difficult to transcend the duality of desire and hate. Only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulated principles of religion, who have acted piously and have conquered sinful reactions, can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then gradually they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. This elevation is possible in Krishna consciousness, in the association of pure devotees who can deliver one from delusion. Srila Madhvacharya has quoted the following statement from Brahmanda Purana. One should have complete faith in the transcendental literature such as Srimad-Bhagavatam and other literature that directly glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should also have faith in Vaishnava Tantras, the original Vedas, and the Mahabharata, which includes the Bhagavad Gita and which is considered the fifth Veda. The Vedic knowledge originally emanated from the breathing of Vishnu, and Vedic literature has been compiled in literary form by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vishnu. Therefore, Lord Vishnu should be understood to be the personal speaker of all this Vedic literature. There are other Vedic literatures called Kala Vidya, which give instructions in material arts and sciences. Since all such Vedic arts and sciences are ultimately intended to be used to render devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Keshava, saintly persons in the renounced order of life should never blaspheme such apparently mundane literatures, because such literatures are indirectly connected with the Supreme Lord. One may go to hell for blaspheming these secondary literatures. Shraddha indicates a faithful mentality which can be analyzed in two sections. The first type of faith is a firm conviction that all the statements of the multifarious Vedic literatures are true. In other words, the understanding that Vedic knowledge in general is infallible is called Shraddha, or faith. A second type of faith devotee of the Supreme Lord should first apply the first type of faith to the various kala vidyas. What's the first type of faith? Firm conviction that of the multifarious Vedic literatures are true. It's so symbolic, isn't it? It's so symbolic, the sounds of the material world and what the difference between the sound that we're hearing now. But very vivid example. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should thus apply the first type of faith to the various kala vidyas, or Vedic material arts and sciences. But he should not accept such scriptures as pointing out his personal goal in life. Nor should he carry out any Vedic injunction that is contradictory to the injunctions of Vaishnava scriptures, such as the Pancharatra. So, with permission. Permission? Astrology. Astrology is one of these Vedic literatures that's talked about here. That's not directly glorifying Krishna, but what it is doing is giving you the details of how the modes of nature are interacting to influence us. But we shouldn't accept that that's pointing out the personal goal of life. It may be telling you a good time to start a business, or the right person to marry, or other such things within the modes of nature, you know. And it may be a secondary help, indirect help, so that you can be peaceful, so you can do. But it doesn't point to the goal of life, which is pure love of Krishna. Thus, one should faithfully accept all Vedic literature as directly or indirectly describing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and should not blaspheme any portion of it. Even for Lord Brahma, as well as for other creatures, down to the insignificant, unmoving species, such as trees and stones, blasphemy of any Vedic literature causes one to merge into the darkness of ignorance. Thus the Suras, the demigods, great sages and devotees of the Lord, should understand that the Pancharatric literatures, as well as the four Vedas, the original Ramayana, the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and other Puranas, and the Mahabharata, are Vedic literatures that establish the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the unique transcendental position of the Lord's devotees according to their status of spiritual advancement. Any other vision of Vedic literatures is to be considered an illusion. In all authorized religious scriptures, the ultimate goal is to understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of everything and everyone, and that the Lord's devotees are not different from Him, although such devotees are to be understood in terms of their level of spiritual advancement. Lord Krishna has stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedaish Chasarvar Aham Eva Vedyo, Vedanta Krid Vedavid Eva Chaham. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Siddharad api chota maha, atosmi loki vedecha, pratitat purushottama. Where is that verse?
15, 18.
Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. Bhagavad Gita 15:18. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that one cannot develop the godly qualities mentioned in the preceding verses unless one accepts the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide Vaishnava, spiritual master. Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jigyasu shreya uttamam. In this connection, he has quoted the following statement. Acharyitva tu govindam tadiyan narchayat tuyaha nasa bhagavato gyeya kevalam dambikak smritaha. One who performs worship of Lord Govinda but fails to worship his devotees should be understood to be not a devotee of the Lord, but simply a victim of false pride. For one who has accepted the shelter of at the lotus feet of a pure devotee of Krishna, it is very easy to execute worship of the Lord himself. For such a surrendered soul, there is no need of artificial penances and austerities. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has quoted the following from Narada Panchara. This is one of my favorite verses. Aradito yadi hadis tapasakata kim. Naradito hadis tapasatata kim. Anta bahir yadi hadis tapasatata kim. Nanta bahir yadi hadis tapasatata kim. It's a nice verse. If one is worshipping Lord Hari, what is the use of performing extraneous penances? And if one is not worshipping Lord Hari, no such penances will save one. If one can understand that Lord Hari is all-pervading, within and without, what is the need of performing penances? And if one is not able to understand that Hari is all-pervading, all his penances are useless. Aradito yadi hadis tapasa kata kim. Naradito hari hadis tapasa kata kim. Anta bahir hari hadis yadi hadis tapasa kata kim. Nanta bahir yadi hadis tapasa kata kim. It's a tongue twister in Sanskrit. Is always absorbed in executing his devotional service to Krishna. If a devotee becomes falsely proud of executing severe penances and austerities and meditates on accepting and rejecting material objects, instead of thinking of the service to Krishna, his so-called austerities become an impediment to devotional service. A devotee should not be disturbed by the word juggler of those who are against the devotional service of the Lord. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has emphatically pointed out that devotional service to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord is the only means of achieving the final perfection of life. Therefore, a Vaishnava should practice maunam or silence by ignoring those literatures which are full of false arguments, such as those of the Mayavad school and those Karmakanda scriptures which promote sense gratification in the name of religious life. If one becomes overwhelmed by mundane unhappiness due to not achieving immediate success in self-realization, or if one becomes deluded by sense gratification and tries to take shelter of materialistic men and doctrines, one's devotional progress will immediately be checked. Similarly, if a devotee expresses love for things separate from Krishna, or tries to find fault in the process of devotional service or the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita in order to justify absorbing himself in the sense gratification of seeing things separate from Krishna, his progress in spiritual enlightenment will be seriously disturbed. Such an illusory concept is called Vrittiya Binibesha, or absorption in illusion. On the other hand, if one is attracted to the vibration of Vedic sound by the consensus of self-realized authorities called the Vaishnava Parampara, and thus engages enthusiastically in Krishna, Nama, Kirtan, or chanting the holy names of the Lord, then one's practice of mona, or silence, is perfect. One should avoid prajalpa, or whimsical conversations unrelated to devotional service. Merely restraining the senses artificially without chanting and hearing the glories of the Supreme Lord cannot be considered the spiritual perfection. The example is given that although many domestic animals in the barnyard are sometimes forced to practice celibacy when isolated from one another, such animals cannot be considered brahmacharis. or spiritual students. Similarly, if one is not considered similarly, one is not considered spiritually advanced simply because of dry speculative arguments or temporary austerities. One must submissively hear the message of the Vedic sound vibration, especially as it is summarized in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord Himself. Vidaish Chasarvaya Aham Eva Vedyaha. 15:15 Bhagavad Gita. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has warned us that if one becomes attracted to non-theistic ethical philosophies, such as those of the Buddhists and Jains, which glorify such mundane principles as ahimsa or non-violence, one's mundane faith in godless ethics is spiritually suicidal. To restrict the senses by artificial austerities and to undertake huge social arrangements to facilitate mass sense gratification are both godless attempts to regulate human society in an artificial way that hides the eternal relationship of every living being with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the natural leader of society. When so-called moral philosophers spoil the opportunity of human life, the opportunity to revive our eternal relationship with Krishna in the name of ethics, such foolish persons commit the greatest violence against human society. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Dvaya Karaha Vichar Vichara Karile Chite Pabe Chamatkar. If you are indeed interested in logic and argument, kindly apply them to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If you will find such mercy strikingly wonderful. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a Mahabhagavata, or pure devotee of the Lord, is one who sees that both the material and spiritual worlds are non-different from Lord Krishna, being expansions of His potency, but also sees that Brajendranandana, Krishna, keeps Himself eternally distinct by His unique quality of all attractiveness. Thus, a pure devotee of the Lord is aniketatam, without a fixed residence, meaning that he accepts neither the gross nor subtle body as his eternal residence. Since one's so-called home and family are expansions of his body, such material creations are also not to be considered one's actual residence. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddhao kripaya tavapada pankaja stitaduli sadrisham pachintaya. O Krishna, son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your lotus feet. Shikshastaka 5. Thus a devotee should understand that his eternal residence is fixed in the dust of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A Vaishnava should reject the gross sense gratification of living in the forest in the mode of goodness, in the city in the mode of passion, or in the gambling house in ignorance. A pure devotee may travel all over the world to residence. One who has become mature in this understanding may take the Tridanda Sannyas order of life under the direct shelter of the Lord. The impersonalist cannot understand how the devotee of the Lord, although fixed in the duality of seeing himself as eternally different from the Lord, sees all existence, those who attempt to acquire knowledge by impersonal speculation based on their tiny experience of the material cosmic manifestation, cannot understand the transcendental reality of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. The process of assimilating this transcendental knowledge is given in these verses, starting with Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta, 11.3.21. One is recommended to accept the bona fide spiritual master and serve him according to the direction of these verses. The essence of such instructions, impersonalists, ritualistic fruitive workers, and those who are whimsically indifferent to the ultimate purpose of life, and instead should devote himself to associating with the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A falsely proud neophyte may imagine himself a great devotee of the Lord without taking to the company of the Lord's followers. But without such association, it is not possible to become advanced in Krishna consciousness. Text 27 and 28. That was only one verse. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Jnanam, Harir Adbhuta Karmana, Janma Karma Gunanam Cha, Tarate Kila Chestitam, Istam Datam Tapo Japtam, Vritam Cha Chatpanak Priyam, Daran Sutan, Krihan Pranan, Yat Pardasmai Nivedanam. These are very nice verses too. 11th canto is so nice. One should hear, glorify, and meditate upon the wonderful transcendental activities of the Lord. One should specifically become absorbed in the appearance, activities, qualities, and holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus inspired, one should perform all of one's daily activities as an offering to the Lord. One should perform exclusively for the Lord's satisfaction. Similarly, one should chant only those mantras which glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all one's religious activities should be performed as an offering to the Lord. Whatever one finds pleasing or enjoyable, he should immediately offer to the Supreme Lord. And even his wife, children, home, and very life air, he should offer at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. This will probably take us into Thursday. What's today? Oh, purport. Ordered. Yat karoshi, yat ichnasi, yat jahosi dadasi yat, yat tapasesi kontaya, tat karushva, manarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, and all us. Srila Prabhupada has commented on this verse as follows. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to mold his life in such a way that he will not forget Krishna under any circumstance. Everyone has to work for maintenance of his body and soul together. And Krishna recommends herein that one should work for him. Everyone has to eat something to live. Therefore he should accept the remnants of food offered to Krishna. Any civilized man has to perform some religious, ritualistic ceremonies. Therefore Krishna recommends, do it for me. And this is called the tendency to give something in charity. Krishna says, give it to me. And this means that all surplus money accumulated should be utilized in furthering the Krishna consciousness movement. Nowadays people are very much inclined to the meditational process, which is not practical in this age. But if anyone practices meditating on Krishna 24 hours by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra around his beads, he is surely the greatest yogi, as substantiated in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Many persons who become attracted to the devotional service of Krishna are bewildered by the material possessions, reputation, or skills they have accumulated by their previous material activities. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, these two verses indicate that all such material opulences accumulated by one's previous karma should be used as an offering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One's fame, education, wealth, and so on should all be used to carry out the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes envious materialists ask why one should waste one's wealth and education on the Lord's service when such things could be better used to gratify the temporary material body. Actually, however, whatever we possess, including this body, is ultimately the property of the Supreme Lord, who is the creator, maintainer. Therefore, one should be blessed by dovetailing one's so-called opulences in the devotional service of the Lord. Otherwise, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Mrityu Sarva Haras Chaham, the Supreme Lord will appear before us at the time of death as Mrityu, death personified, and violently take away all of our possessions. Therefore, such possessions should be peacefully offered to the lotus feet of the Lord and able to enjoy the pious result of such an offering. So practical and logical. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, tapa, austerity, means that one should observe vows such as Ekadashi vrats. Anybody do some extra vrat today? Huh? That's it. I did 64 rounds today. So I'm a little feisty. Hare Krishna. I get a little carried away when I get excited. Okay. Oh Krishna. In which one, I'll read this again. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, tapa, austerity means that one should observe vows such as Ekadashi vrat, in which one fasts from grains and beans twice a month. The word japtam refers to chanting the holy names of the Lord, such as Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has further pointed out that one can offer one's wife, children, and home to the Lord by converting one's family into devotees of the Lord, Supreme Lord, rather than becoming artificially puffed up in the pursuit of so-called status symbols. One's family should be trained to understand that they are eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. And when the entire family becomes dedicated to the Lord's service, a very beautiful situation is created. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has pointed out that if a human being is not initiated into the process of Bhagavata Dharma, he must depend upon the uncertain knowledge derived from his gross material senses. Indifferent to the sublime descriptions of the Lord's eternal appearances, pastimes, and innumerable transcendental qualities, the faithless materialist wanders about on the platform of mundane enjoyment. But if one can know Godhead as he is described in authorized Vedic literature, then one should accept the order of Tridanda Sannyas, or at least one should practice restraint of the body, mind, and words, and thus become self-controlled and fixed in the absolute truth. Then all of one's desires, all the charity he gives, and all his penances and chanting of mantras, in other words, his entire personality, his home, his children, his wife, and his very life air become heartfelt offerings to the Supreme Lord. When a living entity constantly hears the authorized scriptures of the Supreme Lord and dovetails all of his activities in the Lord's, he is considered to be fixed on the platform of Bhagavad Dharma. One who desires his ultimate self-interest should cultivate friendship with those persons who have accepted Krishna as the Lord of their life. I'll repeat that. One who desires his ultimate interest should cultivate friendship with those persons who have accepted Krishna as the Lord of their life. One should further develop an attitude of service toward all living beings. One should especially try to help those in the human form of life, and among them, especially those who accept the principles of religious behavior. Among religious persons, one should especially render service to the pure devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What a nice verse. Sanskrit. Evaridam paricharyam chubayatra mahatsu nishu sadhushu. Purport. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the highest duty for devotees of the Supreme Lord is to establish friendship with those who have completely surrendered to Krishna and who have thus achieved Sharanagati, shelter at the Lord's lotus feet. One should render service to both the Lord and his devotees, since the Lord is more pleased by sincere service rendered to his pure devotees. Offer respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his devotees, and his worshipful paraphernalia, but should actually render service to the representatives of the Lord who are known as Mahabhagavatas. Text 30. To associate with the devotees of the Lord by gathering with them to chant the glories of the Lord. This process is most purifying. As devotees thus develop their loving friendship, they feel mutual happiness and satisfaction. And by thus encouraging one another, they are able to give up material sense gratification, which is the cause of all suffering. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness should not envy one another or quarrel among themselves. Shall I read that again? Oh, all right. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness should not envy one another or quarrel among themselves. Giving up all such mundane feelings, they should gather together and chant the glories of the Supreme Lord for mutual purification. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has pointed out that glorification of the Supreme Lord is especially potent when performed in the association of pure devotees. When devotees engage in Sankirtan, chanting the glories of the Lord together, they experience the highest transcendental bliss and satisfaction. Thus they encourage one another to give up material sense gratification, which is based on illicit sexual connections with women. One devotee will say to another, "Oh, you have given up sense gratification. Starting today, I shall also give it up." One should learn to increase one's love for the devotees, to satisfy them, and to give up sense objects unfavorable to serving Krishna. And one should learn to view the entire universe as paraphernalia for the Lord's service. By engaging the objects of the senses in Krishna's service, one automatically becomes detached from them. And as one passes one's days in the association of the Lord's devotees, one's transcendental ecstasy increases more and more. Through discussions about the topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, this is so good. As one passes one's days in the association of the Lord's devotees, one's transcendental ecstasy increases more and more through discussions about the topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, one who wants to be free from the of Maya in the form of sense gratification must constantly associate with pure devotees of the Lord who have no engagement other than chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord and carrying out his mission on earth. Paper the walls with this purport. Srila Madhvacharya has pointed out that just as one should cultivate friendship with devotees, one must cultivate a spirit of friendship toward the demigods who manage the universe on the Lord's behalf. Thus, one should live peacefully within this world. Text 32. So we don't worship the demigods, but we don't envy them either. We offer them respect. The devotees of the Lord constantly discuss the glories of the personality of Godhead among themselves, like every night at 6 o'clock. Thus, they constantly remember the Lord and remind one another of His qualities and pastimes. In this way, by their devotion to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the devotees please the personality of Godhead, who takes away from them everything inauspicious. Being purified of all impediments, the devotees awaken to pure love of Godhead. And thus, even within this world, their spiritualized bodies exhibit symptoms of transcendental ecstasy, such as standing of the bodily hairs on end. That's such a wonderful verse, my God. Smarayantas cha mitogauga haram harim bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya vibrat utpalakam tanum. I have to repeat that. Constantly discuss the glories of the personality of Godhead among themselves. Thus they constantly remember the Lord and pastimes. In this way, by their devotion to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the devotees please the personality of Godhead, who takes away from them everything inauspicious. Being purified of all impediments, the devotees awaken to pure love of Godhead, and thus, even within this world, their spiritualized bodies exhibit symptoms of transcendental ecstasy, such as standing of the bodily hairs on end. Purport. The word agauga haram is very significant in this verse. Aga refers to that which is inauspicious or sinful. The living entity is actually Satchidananda Vigraha, or eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. But by neglecting his eternal relationship with Krishna, the personality of Godhead, he commits sinful activities and undergoes the inauspicious result in the form of material suffering. The chain of sinful reactions is called oga, or a relentless wave of suffering. Krishna is agauga haram harim. He takes away the sinful reactions of his devotees, who are thus entitled to experience the inconceivable bliss of the kingdom of God, even while remaining in this world. The words bhaktya, sanjataya bhaktya indicate that there are two main divisions of Bhakti Yoga: sadhana bhakti and prema bhakti. Srila Prabhupada has elaborately explained in his book, The Nectar of Devotion, the progress of the devotee from sadhana bhakti, or the execution of regulated principles, to prema bhakti, or service executed in love of God, Godhead. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a liberated soul is always enthusiastic due to the appearance of transcendental ecstasy within his body. Thus, he always aspires to remain overwhelmed in chanting the glories of the personality of Godhead, Hari. And this is so sweet, it doesn't get any sweeter than this. It's amazing. No? Am I just imagining something? Is it true? It's true. Just to be able to share this, to hear this together with sincere devotees is it's like a dream come true. It's a dream we don't have to wake up from. It's a good dream we don't have to wake up from. see. One more, okay, one more. It's hard to give this up. 32. Having achieved love of Godhead, the devotees sometimes weep loudly, absorbed in thought of the infallible Lord. Sometimes they laugh, feel great pleasure, speak out loud to the Lord, dance or sing. Such devotees have transcendental material such devotees, having transcended material conditioned life, sometimes imitate the unborn Supreme by acting out his pastimes, and sometimes, achieving his personal audience, they remain peaceful and silent. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained the symptoms of love of Godhead. Rudanti. The devotees cry, thinking, another day has passed, and still I could not obtain Krishna. Then what will I do? Where will I go? From whom shall I inquire? And who can possibly help me reach Krishna? Hasanti. It is late at night. The sky is dark. And Krishna is determined to steal from the house of one of the elderly gopis. He is hiding underneath a tree in the corner of the courtyard belonging to one of the cowherd men. Although Krishna thinks that he is completely concealed, he suddenly hears a voice from one of the elderly members of the family. Who are you there? And he begins to flee the courtyard. When this humorous scene is revealed to the devotee begins to laugh. Did you notice how we all laughed? Did you notice that? Did you notice it? Did you notice it? Well, you read this to an atheist and they won't laugh. Therefore, because you all laughed, I know that I'm in the association of pure devotees. There may be more to it than that. You know, there may be more symptoms that will come from it. But that's the beginning. And we are safe right here and now. Nandanti. Then Krishna actually reveals his transcendental form to the devotee. The devotee experiences the highest transcendental bliss. Oh, excuse me. Vandanti. Yeah, that's Nandanti. Vadanti. The devotee says to the Lord, "Oh Krishna, after so many days I have finally achieved you." When all the devotee's senses are absorbed in Sri Krishna, the devotee has successfully transcended the material condition of life. This is indicated by the word alaukika. Alaukika, or the transcendental platform, is explained by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mam chayo vyabhicharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Ajam Harim Anushilayanti Talilam Abhinanyanti. Anushilayanti indicates that out of extreme ecstasy, the devotees sometimes imitate or act out the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. This ecstatic symptom was manifested by the gopis in Vrindavan during Krishna's absence. In the 21st verse of this chapter, it was stated that one who has understood that there is no happiness either on earth or in material heaven must surrender at the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. The following verses gave many detailed instructions regarding the activities of a bona fide disciple. Now this verse is describing the mature fruit of devotional service, namely pure love of Godhead. Everyone has the opportunity to come to this platform of transcendental bliss by taking the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna's representative on his head. one should give up the mentality of envy and false prestige and humbly take shelter of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master is to be considered the incarnation of the Lord's mercy. There is absolutely no doubt that a sincere soul who serves a bona fide spiritual master will achieve the highest perfection of life, Shreya Uttamam. He will enjoy eternal bliss and knowledge in the personal abode of the Lord. Hare Krishna. It's getting thicker and sweeter here. Okay, we'll stop there. Hare Krishna. It's an hour. Just an hour. Open mic time. Honest John's got one. I can see it coming. And he's even writing it down.
I've got a question. It says to be careful not to blaspheme any portion of Vedic literature, and it goes, okay, one who fails to worship the pure devotees of the Lord is not a devotee. How do you worship devotees of the Lord? How do you worship a person?
Wait. Go. Where is that? I think you left out one word. Go ahead. When you wrote it down, let's see.
Well, I just kind of paraphrasing it a little bit.
What is it? We need to get that verse or that part.
Well, I was, me paraphrasing it is, one who fails to worship pure devotees of the Lord is not a devotee. How do you worship devotees of the Lord?
Oh, I see. In other words, one who's a devotee says, I'm not a devotee. So how do you figure out who to worship? Because all the devotees are saying we're not devotees? Is that?
Well, he's just saying that the injunction that we heard was that one who says he's my devotee is not my devotee, but one who is a devotee of my devotee is actually my devotee. So he's asking,
Is that what you're saying?
It says
he's asking, how do I worship the devotees of Krishna, if that's the actual thing?
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, how do you worship? How do you worship a devotee of Krishna? Do you by just offering your obeisances, your respects, or
the same way you worship Krishna. Manmana bhava mad bhakto majjaji mam namaskuru. By thinking about him, by serving, by offering homage, by worshipping, by serving, by developing affection, attachment, by wanting to be with the person, by listening to the person's words as very serious. Like when we read these things together, I mean, I'm just a peon, actually, if you want to know who I am, I'm just a peon. I'm just like, I've become very attached to just reading the liberated words, and I try not to, I do speak about them, but...
Well, so, I don't want to get too wrapped up into the regulations and all. So it's not like you're doing darshan or something to a devotee, but you're gonna give him gifts, offer him food, be a friend.
Yeah, you do all those things,
Yeah.
but you do those things not in order to get something back.
No, but just because you want to.
Yes,
Yeah.
out of love.
Yeah.
That's why sometimes the spiritual master won't speak. If he's with someone that he thinks, because it's not that, even if we're a bona fide spiritual master in the sense that we're offering an initiation to others to connect them to the to the steps of succession and instructing them, still, that doesn't mean that we're... You can see that when the initiating gurus around and their disciples around them, it changes, doesn't it? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it changes. There's a special atmosphere. It's called Guru Tattva. It's beyond the form of the particular person. It's because the spiritual master doesn't think that he's Krishna, and the spiritual is not Krishna in the sense that he's, knows everything like Krishna does, and can lift Govardhan Hill and show off all kinds of mystic powers and all those kinds of things. No, but because it's his life to helping others learn about Krishna and come to Krishna. Therefore, that person becomes very, very dear to Krishna. So when when you have a friend, and the friend has a dog, of course we don't keep dogs at least in the house. But anyway, if you have a friend and have a dog and they come into your house and the friend kicks your dog, then I think you're going to get kicked out of the house pretty quick. But if it comes over and he pets your dog, nice. That when we go to Folkestone and stay there in this kind of converted cottage, it was like a barn before, a little tiny barn. There's one dog that they have. His name is Buddy, and he's a golden lab, and he's about this tall. But he acts just like a child. And every single person that comes in, he goes, like this, wags, and he comes running over to you, pet me, pet me, pet me, it's like. And so, the owner and the persons who were in that place, So we're the dog of the spiritual master. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. Yeah, this is our dog collar. Come over here. Okay. Come over here, Barty. Okay. And so when we get like that, when we get to that stage, then something opens up, and there's this flow of loving devotional service, and both parties taste. That's why Krishna acts like that. In the highest stage, Krishna's hiding. He wants to come in and steal something, or he wants to meet with Radharani, or whatever he's doing, and the elders are saying, who's going on? Who is that over there? And Krishna's, I'm thinking, I'm caught, and he tries to get away, and all these things. This is love. This is, varieties of loving emotions and loving service. We can't imitate that, but the beginning stage is to hear submissively, and to want to please, and to want to satisfy the spiritual master and the previous acharyas by helping them spread the movement. And by doing that, the door open. That's the doorway open. The door opens, and then you get entrance into all these things, and therefore you can all smile. We can all smile together when we hear about Krishna doing this funny thing. Whereas ordinary people, it's just, what are you smiling about? It's just like. Yes, Prana.
I especially like these, how we should learn to associate with devotees. It seemed like this was the part of this. The question was how to transcend that illusory energy, and then we heard about taking shelter of the spiritual master, cultivating these qualities of a disciple, and then tonight we heard about associating with devotees by hearing and chanting about Krishna. And then we heard about the perfection, the prema bhakti. And so those few verses there that were really nectar about associating with devotees, and how one's constantly encouraging one another to give up sense gratification, constantly those qualities and pastimes and names, kind of really brought out how we're at we have like what's the right kind of word, like a cutting edge, that's the right terminology, but we have an advantageous position, like living in an ashram actually, and living in a temple community around devotees and around the
temple. Why is that? Because when everybody's following the principles in a place, and one person isn't, it comes out. It comes out. It's like the social pressure in the material world is to become a big sense enjoyer, and if you are, then everybody looks at you and but here the social pressure is to do just the opposite. The social pressure is to become a pure devotee. So I would say that that begins with developing the relationship with the spiritual master as the father, that figure. In other words, we can't jump to that spontaneous platform in relationship to the spiritual master in the beginning. There has to be a little distance, and it's hard when you have a character like me. It's hard to be like that with me because I'm just such a joke-a-loke all the time, But actually, there should be some reverence in the beginning, and I think that's key when you add into your platform. But I think it's important for us in the beginning, as long as we're still in sadhana bhakti, to be careful, in our dealings with the devotees and the spiritual master in particular, but with the devotees also, to be careful in our dealings with them, not to offend, not to do something. And how do you know? Well, you know what offends you. Atmapamyana sarvatra sarvam pashati yorjana sukham vayadivaya sayugi paramomata. You know what hurts, so don't act like that to anybody. That's the golden rule. It's the same in the Bible, which I was going to bring up too when we heard that point about don't blaspheme other scriptures. Part of it is lower scriptures in the Vedas, karma kanda, these don't blaspheme them, even though they're not bringing you to love of God. And the Bible and the bona fide scriptures, they're also not to be blasphemed. Another thing is if they're changed in their person or misrepresenting them, that's another thing. But the actual teaching is the golden rule: do as to unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's the same. That's the eternal spiritual principle. So by doing those things, then Krishna, who's in the heart of all of us, he becomes pleased. And then he, in the heart of all of us, facilitates and encourages and promotes, reciprocates with us in a way that we taste sweeter things than we've ever experienced before. And in that way we become encouraged to stay, and then encouraged to, and then by staying we advance to the higher stages of devotional service. So even if we're neophytes, even if we're brand new, we get a taste by being in the association of devotees who are doing just exactly what we're doing now. Yes, please.
And I was also thinking, we hear one can be in Vrindavan simply by one's consciousness, one's relationship with Krishna. He said he was always in Vrindavan due to his relationship with his spiritual master and Krishna. Sometimes I hear devotees say that you never need to go to Vrindavan. It's not important. You can be here and it's the same thing. But it seems that, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it is still an important thing to go to Vrindavan. And
what did Prabhupada mean when he said, you don't need to go to Vrindavan? What did he mean? Window, and he sees the Hudson River, he sees the Yamuna. And when you walk into his room, every single thing is being used in Krishna's service, and therefore when you walk, just like anybody can walk into the room right now, and because we're associating with the Srimad-Bhagavatam together, seriously, the atmosphere, believe me, right now, at this moment, is Vrindavan. Now we may be perceiving it to different degrees, depending on who we are. You can go to Vrindavan and not even realize you're in Vrindavan. Prabhupada used to joke, you can't buy a ticket to Vrindavan. But still, there's a difference. Because the Praudamaya, which covers the Vrindavan that manifests there in that place, Boma Vrindavan, when Krishna's there, is there all the time. But it's covered by Praudamaya, and therefore you can't see it. But it's so powerful that you can taste it through that Praudamaya. Even if you're just anybody, you can taste the difference. You can't understand what it is, but you can taste the difference.
So would you say that there's still benefit for the neophyte to go to...
Prabhupada recommended it.
Mm-hmm. So I was thinking and comparing this to what the point about associating with devotees and living with devotees. You don't need to, one can go to work and...
It's the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same, but it's a matter of our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the world. But Lord Chaitanya wanted the whole world to become Krishna conscious. So what I'm saying is that the atmosphere that comes into the temple room when we're all together there worshiping, Sri Leela Madhava, or even in our own rooms when we're absorbed in hearing and chanting. Please forgive me for using myself as an example, because I'm just a fool. But Krishna, Prabhupada, is so kind to me that he's arranged my life in such a way that I'm hearing or chanting like this 9 hours a day, every single day. Yeah, 4 hours in the morning, 2 hours this, and other times talking about Krishna with the devotees, every single day. I don't deserve that, but somehow or other, they're constantly thinking about glorifying, being with, sharing, remembering. This is Vrindavan. And if you achieve that, then you don't really need to go to Vrindavan. You don't even need to go to holy places of pilgrimage. I mean, there's a verse, I'll share, but I heard from Gopi Pradhanana Prabhu, that once you realize what Vrindavan is, and you're in Vrindavan, if you go to another place of pilgrimage, to go on pilgrimage, you're making an offense. So, once you actually realize that the deity is Krishna, and you're worshiping the deity on that level, once you realize that the holy name is Krishna, and you're worshiping the Krishna on that level, even if you're a neophyte, the atmosphere changes. So these rules don't exactly apply, as we go forward in devotional life and devotional service. But for neophyte devotees, it's extremely important.
Because sometimes we hear that it takes like a certain adhikar to maybe commit to temple living, live in an ashram or whatever. But it seems like that facility is especially there for the neophyte to constantly be hearing about Krishna, like it said, encouraging one another and whatnot.
Yes, absolutely. And then Prabhupada said, but if you learn that art and perform inside your home with your family the same schedule, the same program exactly, then it's not different. But that's very difficult. That's very rare, because there's so many distractions. There's so many things that take you away from that perception. That's Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's 10 kids. Count them, 10. Raising 10 kids, and one of them's an incarnation of a ray of Vishnu. And yet, what we read every time we come to His Parents' Day, or disappearance, they would read his schedule, you know. He sleeps 2 days, 2 hours. He wrote 100 books. Anyway, on and on and on. You can't even imagine who he was and what, from the platform of family life. He only went, just at the end, he went into samadhi and took the Paramahansa Vesh. But Bhaktisiddhanta is his son. Prabhupada told us, I don't know if you know this, Prabhupada told us that Bhaktisiddhanta was so strict that sometimes he would chastise his father. You are too attached to women. 10 children? You're too attached to that stuff. And his father would go, you know. These are and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he insisted that Bhaktisiddhanta take initiation from Gorkishore Das Babaji. Now Gorkishore Das Babaji was very special. He was illiterate. He was not educated. You know, he wasn't a scholar. He used to carry around 3 books, you know. Prema Bhakti Chandrika and Prarthana and a couple of others. That was it. He wasn't a Vedantas, he didn't study all the Bhagavatam and all these details and this and that. But he knew what was going on. Everybody who walked into the Dham and was not a pure devotee, he knew exactly what was going on. So Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur is reputed to be the greatest scholar ever on the level of Jiva Goswami. Like encyclopedic memory. He would just go into a library and just, suck it all up and, he was like out of this world. You know. He wanted to learn English, so he just went into a room with some dictionaries and books, and he came out a few hours later fluent in English. These are not ordinary personalities. So he went to Gorkishore Babaji and he said, please initiate me. And he said, no. He went back to his father. He said, no, go ask him again. He went back to ask him again. He said, I'll have to ask Mahaprabhu. So then he went back to his father and said, okay, let's see. He went back again. Well, what did he say? I forgot to ask. Going back and forth, and finally, he met him on the bridge, and he was going to jump off the bridge. He said, if you don't initiate me, because Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, don't bother coming back here. If you can get initiated from him, don't bother to come back here. So then he finally submitted. He finally gave initiation. One disciple he had. That was it. So, these rules and regulations, and sometimes we hear that it's like this and it's like that. But as we go forward in devotional life, anyone and everyone can have this knowledge and these understandings. But you have to be patient, and you have to associate with these books, and you have to become serious enough that you want to be like them. You can't, but you have to want. And when that want becomes so intense that you can't live for another second unless then Krishna will appear. But from here to there, and sometimes he won't. Sometimes he'll keep a devotee who's actually pure from having those ecstatic symptoms, so that he'll do something for him. Like Sanatana Goswami wanted to commit suicide. He wasn't doing it out of love. He was an advanced devotee. He was thinking that he was so sinful that he couldn't live for another second in his body. And Lord Chaitanya told him afterwards, sometimes an advanced devotee doesn't want to live in the body for another second, out of separation from Krishna, not out of disgust with, material existence. you know. So Hare Krishna.
There's a nice sentence in one of the purports here about thus the devotee always aspires to remain overwhelmed in chanting the glories of the personality of Godhead. Hari.
Yes.
Always
But he never thinks, now I have achieved it. But a neophyte is thinking, oh, when will I get there? So then I'll know, then I've achieved it. But the farther you get there, the farther away it seems, and then you think, I haven't achieved it, but your desire to achieve it becomes so powerful that it's non-different. Jiva uchate, jivan mukta sa uchate. Even while you're in the body, if you have that strong enough desire, and then Krishna may keep it away. If he has something that, like Sanatana Goswami, he said to Haridas Thakur, he said, would you explain to this gentleman that you cannot destroy something that doesn't belong to you, or that something that belongs to someone else? He surrendered. He's talking, Sanatan's standing there, and he's talking to Haridas about Sanatan. He said, you could please explain to him that he surrendered to me, and now the body belongs to me. So he doesn't have a right to give it up. It doesn't belong to him anymore. Could you please talk some sense into this gentleman? And Sanatan's just like, oh my God, what have I done, you know? And then finally he embraces him, and his sores go away, and everything becomes perfect. So you get there just by doing exactly what we're doing right now. And the atmosphere is just something else. It's something special. And when the taste is such that you have to do this every day, and you do, then Krishna becomes pleased, and when he wants, he may not want to give it to you right now. He may not want to give it to you for a few lifetimes. He may have something he wants to do through your body, through your soul. That's what it means to be fully surrendered. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow. Ekadashi. This is auspicious, eh? 64 rounds. This is what 64 rounds will do for you. See you tomorrow at 6 o'clock Central Time, Houston. Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhavi ki jai. Right here in Radha Land. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.